the final weeks of the school year here as we close out the year and head into the summer. And so in your name we pray.
Yeah.
Amen.
Please face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All board members are present with the exception of Mrs. Sneed, who is on her way, as a matter of fact. So she could be showing up here any second.
Vision at Madison-Grant United School Corporation is to inspire, cultivate, and promote excellence in every archive. As our mission is, Madison-Grant is an innovative education community empowering students to be future ready. Public comments. The public is always invited to speak before the board. Please stand when recognized by the president and state your first and last name. Comments should be addressed to the board and be limited to items on the agenda. No complaints or accusations regarding personnel can be allowed during this public discussion time. A time limit of 3 minutes will be given. If more than one person is represented for a group, only one spokesperson will be heard. There is an opportunity for additional comments on non-agenda items towards the end of the meeting. Our spotlight. Mr. Rutherford, our junior senior high principal, is here this evening to provide our spotlight.
All right. Good evening, everyone. If you can do a copy of this. And I promise I'm not going to go like through every single line item on this, but I felt like, you know, just giving you guys the plan like we presented it to our staff. So we are, honestly, I'm really excited about the opportunities we have starting next school year with 6th grade being here. It's we've put a lot of work into this. It's been a collaborative effort between myself, Mrs. Myers, Mr. Herniak, our counseling team, which we kind of collectively call ourselves the Office PLC team. And then with teachers, the opportunity for them to be able to give feedback and things as well. It's been, we put a lot of work and a lot of time into this to come up with what we hope is going to be a really good plan as 6th graders embark here next year at the junior senior high school. So one of the things that we really wanted to capitalize on in this opportunity was creating a middle school field. And having 6th grade here and being able to do 6th, 7th, and 8th grade together, bringing a few more staff members into the fold that are coming to us to be able to make 6th grade work here is really affording us an opportunity to do something we've really needed to do, and that's transform a little bit what we're doing at the junior high middle school level. So there's a lot of things to go with this, but I think what I'm going to do is just kind of explain it, and then you can kind of see it on the paper a little bit what the model is going to look like. So currently, the junior senior high school, we have a 7-period day of 47 minutes per class period, and then also a 30-minute homeroom period. So every kid, kind of an 8-period day. One of them is 30 minutes for homeroom. The other are 7 traditional class periods. Okay. We are going to continue to do that model for grades 9 through 12 next year. They will continue to have the same central schedule that they've had, even before this move. Okay, but we really wanted to do something a little bit different at the middle school level. As you know, it's a transition years. And to be honest, we really feel like 47-minute class periods of English and 47 class minutes of math is not enough at the middle school level, okay? And so this is really affording us an opportunity to take the morning high school periods. So we have 4 class periods of 47 minutes in the morning before lunch. And we have condensed that down into 3 blocks of 65 minutes for our middle school kids. Okay? So we will have a 65-minute block where they will all have English for 65 minutes. They will all have math for 65 minutes. And then the third period is going to be a combination of 65 minutes of science and social studies. Okay? So all of our middle school kids, grades 6, 7, and 8, will have all of their core stuff done before lunch, which the research will tell you is what's best. If you're doing math at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not capitalizing on when it's the best learning opportunity for those kids. Okay? So moving those kids more to in the afternoon, having their electives that traditionally for them are more engaging and more fun and more hands-on, and will keep them a little bit more engaged in the afternoon sessions. So 3 periods, 3 blocks of 65 minutes each in the morning. By the time we get to lunch, now the 3 periods of middle school are up, 4 periods of high school are up, and then the afternoon, we're all back on the same bell schedule again. Okay, so in the afternoon, we'll have lunch, we'll have homeroom, we'll have then 3 47-minute periods left that for the middle school kids will be the elective hands-on types of things. Okay, so then to kind of dig a little deeper into that, so with the 65-minute blocks in the morning, one of the things that we really wanted to wanted to do, even at the junior high level now, is try to do intervention periods, intervention in the classroom, small group things. 47-minute classes just don't make that very easy, to get a full lesson in and then to be able to pull any small groups together is a difficult task. But 65 minutes, it's a little bit more doable. So what we're thinking is they'll have 45 minutes of that 65 minutes will essentially be the traditional, direct instruction, work on homework, activities, projects, whatever that 45 minutes would typically look like now in a 47-minute class. And then the remaining 20 minutes of that block now become really small group interventions. And to make that even work better, we're going to have in every 6th, 7th, and 8th grade language arts and math class, there will be an aide that will be in there during that intervention part. So what I envision is the instructional aide will have a small group of kids that they'll be working on some, and the teacher will have a small group of kids while the rest of the kids are continuing to work on their homework or maybe individual interventions at their own seat. Okay? And the way we're going to do that is we're going to stagger when English and math is. So we will have 1 aide in 6th grade. The small 20-minute intervention time will be very first thing in the English periods. So the aide will be in the English at the beginning of the period. Okay, and then after they get done with their interventions, then they can go to the math room, and then they'll do the interventions in math at the end of the class period. So we're just staggering when intervention time is between English and math, so the aide can be present during the intervention time in both of those things. And then to be even able to add a little bit more to that, our 2 middle school special ed teachers, they won't have resource study halls in the morning because the kids are all going to be in their core classes. So now they can actually come in alongside the aide and the teacher and assist wherever to maybe do a little bit more intensive intervention, maybe a little more one-on-one intervention with the kid that really needs that. Okay? And really what we're hoping to gain out of that is just trying to close some of those gaps. Now, it does take away some aid support that we've traditionally had at the high school level, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we're going to do that here in a second. But I think the feeling amongst the team is if we can close those gaps at the middle school level, then we're going to have less need for the aid support at the high school. Okay? So it's going to be a little bit of we're going to have a little, time where, we may have to juggle some things around and figure a few things out to meet some high school needs too. But we also feel like if we can really capitalize on the middle school experience and getting those kids more direct instruction, when you think about 20 minutes more every day over the course of a year of English and every 20 minutes more of math, and then just the intentional focus on meeting them where their needs are, intervention-wise. We are really hoping that this has a chance to move the needle really hard for us on the achievement things at the middle school level. So that, in essence, there's a couple other things that go with that too. So like, we wanted to capitalize a little bit differently in science. So in 6th grade, we're going to do more of our focus on earth space. 7th grade, we'll have more focus on physical science. And then 8th grade, we'll have more focus on life science. And that was intentional in that we're going to do the science 8th grade during the second semester of their 8th grade year. That semester of life science in 8th grade, combined with the 2 semesters of biology in 9th grade, we think helps us move the needle on the biology ECA test that kids take at the end of 9th grade year. So it's kind of like we're going to teach biology over 3 semesters instead of over 2 semesters. Okay, it'll look a little different at the 8th grade, and they're not getting a biology credit in 8th grade, because they'll get that in 9th grade. But we can still be working some of those standards and some of that curriculum at the 8th grade level that just allows us to spread that over 3 semesters and maybe set our kids up for a little bit more success on biology ILR. So, and that actually is something, I don't know how much you've been keeping up with the accountability, the new accountability model, and probably something we should present on at some point when it actually gets signed by the Attorney General. Hasn't been yet, and people are kind of asking questions, why not yet? So, anyhow, but once it's signed and it's 100%, in the books, we could talk more about that. But the biology iLearn is actually one of the ways that we can get what I'll call bonus points for school accountability. So we want to move that needle. Not that we wouldn't want to anyway, but we have more reason now to move the needle in biology ECA because it's an accountability model thing. So I think that pretty well, at least from a core perspective, and in the afternoon, the middle school kids will be doing their elective stuff. And that was really important to us as well. You guys were all at the meeting that Gwen and I think most of you were at the meeting that Gwen and I presented at. We're actually presenting that same thing Friday. Anybody going to the small rural school conference? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're presenting on Friday at that. But it's also really important to us that we use the middle school and the junior high years to also expose kids to potential careers. Trying to get them to find out what they like to do, what they don't like to do, those kind of things that will help them then maybe as we get into high school be able to tailor their course of study around some of their interests. Okay, so it's the electives part were really, really important to us as well. But not at the expense of the core, and we like that we're putting them in the afternoon when middle school kids need to be a little bit more hands-on, and some opportunities there. So how does this change the high school model? Okay, well, basically, for a long time we've been doing what we call push-in support, where our aides push into certain classes. Obviously, we're still doing that at the middle school level, but rather than doing that at the high school level, we're going to put more focus on the resource study hall room, where you're going to get your interventions met versus being in an aide being in the classroom. And to be honest, the aides in the classrooms, I mean, they're helpful and they work with the teachers and they work with kids. But I think that we'll capitalize more on them doing small group interventions at the middle school level than we are really capitalizing them in a push-in model at the high school. So we have 2 high school special ed teachers. Okay. One of the things that was really important to them and really important to me as well was for them to be able to have a resource study hall with their kids that they are teacher of record for. Okay. So that they can be better progress monitoring those kids, knowing exactly where they are, being able to work on some of their IEP goals that, you know, if they don't see them during the day, it's kind of hard for the teacher of record to work with them on. And so the resource study hall period, the goal is for each of our special ed kids to be able to have their resource study hall with their teacher of record. Which we've not always been able to accomplish in the schedule with this push in, moving people around all over the place kind of model, okay? And then between our 2 special ed teachers at the high school, one of them is going to be a little bit more focused on math and science. So they're going to be doing more of their collaborations with the math and the science folks, okay? And then anytime that a high school kid, is coming out of a math or science room to get help, they'll go to that special ed teacher because they're the ones collaborating with the math and science teachers. And then our other special ed teacher will be focusing on the English and the social studies and collaborating with those teachers. So as kids need resource support out of an English or social studies class, they would go to that teacher. So they get their resource study hall with their teacher of record. And if they need help during a regular core class period, then they'll go to the teacher that is the one that is focusing on those subject areas and collaborating with those teachers. So we feel like we're taking away a little aid support at that level, but trying to get more collaborative with the resource teachers and working with those departments a little closer, okay? That really is the biggest change high school wise, is just to make the middle school model work. We had to change a little bit how we're servicing special ed at the high school. And time will tell, if taking some of that support out of the classroom is going to be a good thing or we're going to have to punt and figure out some things. And we will, if we need to. But we also feel like allowing them to go to the special ed teacher too is, they're the special ed trained, expert. They're the ones that, our aides are great and they do a phenomenal job, but getting the more support from the teacher is not a bad thing. So that's kind of how the model changes for those. Making this model change, we were able to offer a couple of additional social studies electives and science electives at the high school level. So our kids are going to get a few more choices in social studies and science that they haven't traditionally been able to get. And part of that is because we're not tying so much time in science and social studies at the middle school. We're not ignoring science and social studies at the middle school level, but we basically putting it in one block together. And that has freed up their schedules to be able to take on a little bit more high school things. Really, we're really excited. We feel like we've got a really, really good plan as it comes to scheduling and what that's going to look like. I have also included in here the maps. And these are still, they're pretty solid, but there could be a few moves around. But again, part of our thinking here was we're bringing sixth grade here. Sixth grade has obviously not traditionally been at the junior senior high school. And so we really kind of wanted to make sure that we were a little bit more deliberate about isolating them more with just middle school kids and not just letting them travel all over the building with the high school kids. So the map allows us, we basically have all of the middle school core and middle school core teachers in where we are here now, on this side of the building is where what traditionally was the old junior high is now going to be the new middle school wing, okay? And we have, our three middle school English teachers, our 3 middle school math teachers, are all on this side of the building, which allows them to departmentalize and collaborate and work together a little bit better as well. We have a few exceptions, like our 7th and 8th grade science teacher is going to be upstairs because that's where the science lab is. 6th grade science lab is going to be in this end of the building. So 6th graders outside of band, okay, outside of band will be over here all day. And I guess I should say cafeteria lunch because they kind of got across over to the cafeteria, but otherwise, I mean, they're basically on this side of the building all day. And then the 7th and 8th graders are getting a little bit more freedom, but more so in electives than in the core. They'll still be doing the primary middle school core things on this side of the building. So, and then that allows the high school, then we have used the high school's downstairs and upstairs. And if you know the teachers and you look at, we've been able to departmentalize there too. So like our English teachers are together, our math teachers are together, science people, they were staying where they were anyway, because that's where their labs are. Social studies is together. So we really tried to prioritize this as an opportunity to, as long as we're moving people around the building anyway, use this as the time to write it and get the right people together that can work together to move curriculum forward and assessment forward and, all those kind of things. So.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Your junior high teachers, your middle school teachers, so they teach the 3-period block periods
Yes.
and lunch, and then they'll have a prep, and then their other 2 periods will be
Great.
electives.
It's a great question. And I actually meant to talk about that because that's really it's really key to this. It's really key to this. So they'll obviously have their core in the morning. Okay. They'll have a prep in the afternoon. They will have 1 elective class in the afternoon, and then that still leaves them 1 class more in the afternoon. And what we have decided to do is we are putting a lot of model and emphasis on this interventions. And 1 47-minute prep period, when you've got to prep for your classes, you got to do all your grading, you got to put everything in Google Classroom, you got to do all those things. And then we're on top of that, we're saying, well, you guys all have to come up with small group instruction things, one of which you're going to teach, one of which you're going to give your aide to teach. So they will get what I'm calling an interventions prep and then a regular prep. Okay.
As a retired teacher, thank you. Thank you for that.
Hey. And I'll tell you, it is, it's a valuable resource, okay, that we are giving up. So it is not taken lightly. I mean, those periods, like I'm going to be really, not that I don't think that they're not going to use those periods well, because they will. But it's going to be highly oversighted as well. Because if we're going to put this much emphasis and this much resource and this much into that, I mean, we've got to make sure it's done the right way. And so I can even envision, like in that intervention prep, we could potentially pull some kids from elective class to come get some extra help in math or in language arts. That kid that chose not to do his work or her work, and they're not doing it, and the teacher can, you don't get to go to family and consumer science today if you didn't think it was important to do your math and your language arts work. So we can also sometimes use that period to pull kids, do makeup testing, do all kind of things. But I want it to start at least centering around being able to prepare for the interventions, using the data. We've got lots of data, okay? I mean, we got all kinds of data that honestly is just data until we do something with it. And now the point is we've got to do something with it. We've got to see what it tells us. And then we've got to create the interventions and put those models in place to help move the needle. Keep using that word, move the needle, but that's what we want to do. You know, we just center right there, like just below state average to state average. I mean, we center in that little spot, and I want us to go above that spot. You know, I want us to get to where state average is the worst we're looking at, and that everything else we're moving the needle that way forward, and we can. We just have to put the emphasis behind that, and I can tell you that they're not always going to tell me whether they love it or don't love it, but I mean, I'm getting a genuine feel from our people that they love this and they can't wait to start. And so it's, you know, I'm looking forward to August and put the plans now into implementation, because that's when the hard work really begins. But
I think this model, you know, when we talked about transitioning sixth grade out, it was to create that intentional middle school feel for our sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And then there have also been byproducts of that have been positive as well. And so, you know, we talked, and I think it is exciting. I think this is the most intentional plan we've had entering a school year in how we target and provide supports for kids. I'm not saying that we don't right now, we do. But I think it's more efficient use of our resources. I think it's providing teachers an opportunity, especially in those middle school cores, to really dig into data, to drive intervention, to close those gaps. You know, and so I'm excited to see how it plays out. You know, I appreciate the time and effort. You know, this is one thing we voted to bring sixth grade out and said, here you go. You know, Mr. Rutherford's taken his team and formulated a plan, even down to where we're placing classrooms, because we said it was important that this had a middle school feel on this side and sixth graders remained on this side and all of those pieces. So their team has worked tirelessly since we made the decision to bring sixth grade out. But I think that there's exciting days ahead.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions that come to mind? It truly has been a great collaborative effort. You know, I look back here and saw Mrs. Wyrie. I mean, she's been a big part of having to be a part of the special ed conversation, you know, and making sure that we're meeting the requirements of IEP and we're meeting the requirements of law, you know, in addition to, you know, all the things we're doing. So it's been the most collaborative feel of it's taken all of us, all of our heads. And they would tell you, Missy's here, she'd tell you, you know, they really, the counselors really brainchild did the three block system in the morning. And she'll tell you, I pushed back kind of a little bit because as a science guy, I'm just going to say it, as a science guy, as a science teacher, like, you're only going to have half periods of science in junior high. You can't do that. You know, we can't do that. So we were looking at all the different things. They were trying to make me happy, you know, and be able to provide, you know, all the science stuff as well. And again, we're not neglecting science and social studies, but we are prioritizing more time in language and arts and math because we have to. And truthfully, if we do that well, the science and social studies will fall in line too. So, but you know, we looked at every avenue to you know, can we add another block in the afternoon so that we can still do that, and then that was going to take away the elective opportunities. I didn't want to be able to do that either. You know, kids look forward to those, and they need to be exploring in junior high and middle school. So I think we've done the best we can to bring a model that is going to move the needle, and that's the goal. If you sit down, you know, you get bored and you're looking at this further and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate your all support, and You know, and I think hopefully we got some really, really good things to come. So.
From each of us, share our thank you with your team that have
For
spent
sure.
time doing their normal duties, but then also taking this on top of that. So we appreciate their efforts.
Sure will.
Definitely.
Okay.
First item we have on tonight's meeting is correction of the minutes of our, of the executive session of the board meeting held on February 17th. There was a correction of those present. Mr. Gore was not present for the meeting on February 17th, so he's been removed from that. But that's the first item on tonight's agenda.
Need a motion for the correction of the minutes of the executive session. First by Mr. Stanley, second by Mrs. Longacre. All those in favor, motion passes.
Next item is approval of minutes of the school board meeting and executive session held on March 17th.
Any questions? Need a motion for the approval of minutes, please. First by Mr. Haynes, second by Dr. Sneed. All those in favor, motion passes.
Next, we have our approval of vouchers. So we had EFTs in the amount of, now I know these numbers look big, but remember we went a month between meetings. Okay, so we had vouchers in the amount of $1,371,273.62. We had checks number 10329 through 10381 in the amount of $150,505.31. I want to bring attention to that real quick. And you see the bigger amount of EFT payments versus checks payments. That's one of the adjustments we've made over the last few years in the business office, is going to more EFT vendor payments, which saves us cost of postage, saves us cost of printing checks, just the whole process, lost checks, reissuing of checks, canceled checks, voided checks, but just cleans it up significantly. We also have payroll from 327 in the amount of $280,446.62, and our payroll on April 10th of $267,903.83. All of that equals a grand total of $2,070,129.38.
Any questions on vouchers? Need a motion for approval of vouchers, please. First by Dr. Sneed, second by Mr. Stanley. All those in favor, motion passes.
Next, we have approval of personnel as shown in your packet. I would like to thank our volunteers. There are 6 that are on our docket tonight. So those volunteers volunteer their time and give up their time. So I'd just like to thank them. But next, seeking approval of personnel.
Motion for the approval of personnel. First by Mrs. Martin, second by Mr. Stanley. All those in favor, motion passes.
Just one small correction. It's Marlon Neiman.
Missing an L.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. The next, we have approval of donations. We have 2 this evening. Union Chapel Community Church in the amount of $50 to support FCA at Madison-Grant Junior Senior High School, and Fairmount Family Dentistry in the amount of $50 for the staff account at Somerville Elementary School.
Need a motion for the approval of donations, please. First by Mrs. Longacre, second by Mr. Stanley. All those in favor, motion passes.
Approval of fundraisers. Park Elementary School National Elementary Honor Society is asking permission to host a talent show on May 14th at 5 p.m. and they would like to charge $2 per adult. And then we have the MGJSHS Drama Club that is asking to sell Cracker Mix during sports contests the months of April and May. They've coordinated with Mr. Herniak on that.
Different. Need a motion for the approval of fundraisers, please. First by Dr. Sneed, second by Mr. Stanley. All those in favor, motion passes.
2 action items for you this evening. The first one, I don't remember if it was our last meeting when I provided the information for you guys for the first time, but it will be our out-of-district transfer. And what this does is this allows us to establish our enrollment deadline of June 30th, 2026, and our transfer cap numbers for both in-person and virtual. So those are included there, as well as board policy 5111. But the first action item we have tonight is setting that enrollment deadline for out-of-district transfers and those transfer caps.
Any questions? All right, need a motion for the approval of transfer caps, please. First by Mrs. Martin, second by Mr. Stanley. All those in favor? Motion passes.
The next item I have for you this evening is approval of amendments to our Excel Online Central contract. One of these amendments is tied to our Beacon Online Academy. The other amendment is tied to our Virtual Prep Academy of Indiana. These amendments, essentially what they do is they increase our percentage that we retain in the district from 4.25 to 4.75. A meeting or so ago, I provided you guys Mr. May's feedback on the amendments and also what those amendments look like.
Any questions? Need a motion for the approval of the Virtual Academy amendments, please. First by Mr. Stanley, second by Mr. Haynes. All those in favor? Motion passes.
All right, that will jump to miscellaneous and superintendent's updates. So we're going to jump right in on a presentation that I've prepared for you guys as it relates to elementary configuration. And I will tell you guys, this is a presentation that I've walked through with a community member. It's a presentation that I've walked through with our teachers during actually more than just our teachers, because I invited the entire staff. And so this has been sitting in the seat of superintendent as I assess the days ahead for our district, knowing the things that we have. And so I just want to walk through this with you guys this evening and just take a minute to set the record straight, I guess, based on some of the feedback I've received about what's really happening, why it matters, and what's at stake for our students. So again, I want the public to know that this is coming from Ben as acting superintendent, okay, as I assess where we currently are. First thing I want to do is clear up the confusion, okay, and I'm gonna own this. This is my fault. But two separate conversations have essentially become one, okay? But they are not the same thing. The two surface simultaneously from a timeline standpoint. But the study, and I will say that they do cross in one spot, okay? And that's the study of capacity within the facility study and how it overlaps with the talk or the conversation as it relates to school consolidation. The long-term facility study, we started that process with Lancer in order to proactively plan, identify efficiencies and future needs. So that me sitting in my seat, the steward of our resources, our financial resources, I knew what was out in front of us, where we would be required to spend large amounts of money, whether it be roofs, HVAC systems, whatever it may be. But that long-term facility study was enacted in order for us to proactively plan. The school consolidation conversation has arisen from a response to enrollment decline and funding pressures. Okay, so again, two separate conversations that have become one. I'll own that. That's on me. But I just want to bring some clarity tonight and help to split those back apart. So let's talk long-term facility study first. Again, proactive planning, helping us anticipate future facility needs before they become bigger issues. Identifying efficiencies, evaluate our building capacities and our operational effectiveness. And then just being smart stewards, ensuring that every facility dollar works as hard as possible. Before we go further, I just want to give a brief recap, Indiana School Funding 101, okay? So just simple Indiana school funding. When we approve a budget every year, it's four major funds: ed, ops, debt service, and rainy day. And I've tried to simplify this as I presented this again to our staff. But education are the people, teachers and students. It supports teacher salary and benefits, instructional staff, office staff, curriculum, supplies. Funding source is the state of Indiana based on student enrollment. So number of students on our 2 count days, October 1, February 1, those determine how much we get paid for over those 2 6-month periods. Also ADM, known as ADM, average daily membership, but number of kids that we receive in our student count, we receive so much money per kid, that funds our education fund. The operations fund, that's what we know as the bills. Utility bills, transportation department needs, upkeep, custodial department, central office staff, facility repairs and improvements, insurance and daily operations. Okay, but in our homes, that's the bills. Funding source for that, local property taxes, and we are permitted to transfer up to 15% from our education fund. So that's really the two funding sources for operations fund. Debt service, that's what I call the mortgage. Okay, that's our school buildings. What it supports: construction and major renovation, bond repayment, the principal and interest. The funding source for our debt service fund is local property taxes. Then we have the rainy day, what I call our emergency fund. So it's our self-insurance. If we have an immediate need for cash, we have that there. That funding source is essentially transfers from our education and operations funds. We haven't done one of those transfers in a while. We did one that took us from, I think, about 670,000 to a little over $1 million a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. But that is where that funding comes from. So we've had the long-term facility study. We've touched on that. We've touched on Indiana school funding, and now we're going to turn to school consolidation. And why has the conversation of school consolidation surfaced? 2 main things: enrollment decline and funding pressures. Enrollment decline, it's our education fund. Our average daily membership, or our number of students, continues to decline. And I'll give you guys some data. But we know we've been graduating 80, 85, 90 kids, and we replace it with 55. So you do that over 3 or 4 years, obviously your ADM is going to decrease. So education fund's impacted by that. Our operations fund is impacted by other funding pressures, including Senate Enrolled Act 1 and the property tax reform, and increases in operational expenditures. So as we look at school consolidation, and the smart stewardship is ensuring that we maximize our dollars to the classroom. Why is enrollment declining, Ben? I just mentioned one, we're graduating 85, 90. But then on the back end of that, you guys, and I'd like to emphasize this, this is not unique to our district, okay? It's a demographic reality facing most Indiana schools, the majority of rural Indiana schools. But the other layers to that are there's fewer births. So there's fewer childbearing mothers having fewer children. In our district, we have low housing turnover. So existing homes not changing hands. And then we also have no new housing development. So when you take those 3 factors and you pool them, we're going to naturally have declining ADM. And again, that impacts our education fund. Our enrollment by the numbers. From 2020 to 2025, we're down 135 students. Makes sense. 5 years, but we've reduced roughly 25 to 30 kids a year based on what we graduate and we replace with. That's where that comes into. When you take what we are funded at $8,051 per kid, that means in 2025, that's $1.1 million less of revenue in our education fund. The 10-year decline is 333 students. So when you take that 333 times the 8,051, that's approximately 2.7 million lost per year over that 10-year period in our education fund. 3 of our last 4 kindergarten cohorts have been in the 50s. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to be. I will tell you, Mr. Brown he sent out the stuff for kindergarten roundup, sign-up sheet. We have 50 currently signed up, which is an awesome number. We did not have that the last 2 years going into kindergarten roundup. So excited to see that number. But 3 of our last 4 have been cohorts in the 50s. So there's our education fund. Now let's turn to our operations fund and the funding pressures of property tax reform. So Senate Enrolled Act 1 reduces local government and school funding by an estimated $1.8 billion over 3 years, starting in 2026. Indiana public schools will lose roughly $744.4 million by 2028. We have a projected loss of approximately $500,000 annually on average over the next 5 years in our operations fund. Okay, it scales in. It's not 500,000 right out of the gate, but it scales in. That property tax reform, taxpayers win. Okay, so lower property tax bills reduce burdens on our taxpayers. Well, obviously, if we're receiving less from taxpayers, there's less to issue to tax-funded entities, us being one of them. So schools and local governments are affected negatively through the property tax reform. You pair that with what we've seen in rising operations costs in our operations fund. So this data compares 2021 to 2025, and I just grabbed 3 pieces. First being our electric. In 2021, this district spent $228,000 on electric bills. In 2025, we spent $337,000. That's an increase of $109,000 over 4 years. Now you're gonna say, Ben, we're using more electricity. It's the increases in what they're charging us per amount of electricity used. A school bus in 2021, I purchased for $92,000. I have 2 I'm waiting on right now that we paid $138,000 for a piece. So school buses are at $46,000 in that 4 years. A number I've already given you guys, our property casualty insurance in 2021 cost us $144,000. In 2025 cost us $294,000, more than double in 4 years. So when you look at that, and then you also combine that with our health insurance is up 27% in that same amount of time. The state now requires us to contribute 2.1% more in TURF contributions or teacher retirement funds. So every dollar we pay a TURF eligible employee, we're paying 2.1% more in the last 4 years than we did 4 years ago. So you can see there's a storm of things that are impacting our operations fund. Consolidation is nothing new. And I've cited a few here and linked a few. I'm not going to go into each of them, but we've been consolidating buildings since the 1800s. That's a long tradition of responsible stewardship. Every dollar spent on buildings is one less dollar for students. Okay, and I will tell you, as the consolidation conversation has surfaced, this isn't a Summitville Elementary School versus a Park Elementary School debate. That's not it at all. Only one of those 2 buildings has the number of classrooms that we need to house all of our pre-K through 5th grade students. Okay, so that is what drives that conversation. It's not a one versus another or anything like that. But when you look at the number of sections that we have per grade level and the grade levels we're looking to serve, Park Elementary School only has the number of classrooms needed to serve that student population.
Yeah.
Classroom utilization, underutilized spaces. Okay, open classrooms. Summitville Elementary School currently has 5. And I say open classrooms, there may be stuff in the room, but they're not used for everyday education of students. Okay, Summitville Elementary has 5. Park Elementary has 11. Madison-Grant Junior Senior High School has 11. That is a total of 27 empty classrooms sitting across our district today. In my opinion, that is not efficient use of our space. So I want to bring clarity to this, because a lot of the conversation around Senate Enrolled Act 1 right now centers around districts that are in financial hardships, districts that are chasing operating referendums, districts that are having to make difficult decisions, possibly including transportation, among other items. We are not in a financial hardship, and I want that to be clear. And I pulled a few things here to justify that or to support that. Okay, but from the fall of 20 to the fall of 25, we've increased our fund balance growth in those 4 main funds that I talked about a few minutes ago by $4.3 million. That has allowed us to build up as a self-insurance through careful stewardship in each of those budget years. We've increased teacher-based salary scale by $8,700 in that same amount of time. Okay, so we were 36.3 back in the fall of 20, and we were $45,000 today. And whatever that correlates to on the top end. I know we top out at 72 now, but take the 72 minus 8,700, and that's what we were in 2020 on the top end. We've issued 0 RIF notices in those 5 years. Okay? So we haven't walked in and issued a pink slip to a single employee in that amount of time. We've increased our fund balance. We've increased our pay for teachers. We've issued 0 RIF notices, taken 0 jobs. We've absorbed our enrollment decline through attrition each year. So as people have chosen to leave, retire, whatever it may be, we've assessed whether or not we feel like we need to replace that person. That has caused some pain internally within, because there's times that stretch some of our resources. But it's positioned us again to see some of the data in the line above. On top of that, over that same period of time, we've also delivered raises and stipends to all employee groups, more than one. So every one of our employees have seen raises or stipends more than once over that time. We've increased fund balance by $4.3 million. We've increased teacher salary scale by $8,700. $8,700, and we've taken no one's job. So this is not a financial hardship conversation. This is a stewardship of resources conversation. Our duty to our students, efficient, and again, this is superintendent bid. Efficient use of our resources allows us to push more money to the classroom, okay? And in my opinion, I have a duty and I have an obligation to do everything I can to serve students in the most efficient way that has the biggest impact. And so as we look at this conversation, that's what drives this. And I put this in here. I'm not insensitive to buildings. I don't want anybody to think that by any means. But if I feel like we can utilize our space, utilize our buildings differently, that allows us to flow more resources to the classroom that directly impacts students, that's something I'll fight for every day. So why, as your current sitting superintendent, I recommend consideration of consolidation is to save resources that create real tangible benefits for our students, staff, and community. So again, you guys, I've said this isn't a financial hardship, okay? Can we continue to operate 2 elementary buildings if we choose? Absolutely. But I'm just telling you, if that's what we choose to do with our resources, there will be impact of that because I have less resources coming in. Okay, so we could continue to choose to do that. Some of the things that may be impacted by that. A meeting or so ago, I gave you guys an update on our early learning center and our pre-K. That costs the district a certain amount of money, okay? If we consolidate, it frees up resources that allows us to continue providing those services at an affordable price to our employees and community. It allows us to offset Senate Enrolled Act 1 and ADM loss. So it buffers that financial pressure that's hitting almost every district. It allows us to continue to maintain class sizes. Again, we can continue to operate 2 buildings if that's what we choose to do. But I may have to go down to 2 sections at some grade levels and squeeze 29 or 30 kids in a classroom. Consolidation into 1 building also, and I'll get to this here in a minute, allows us the opportunity to expand some programming and offer enrichment opportunities smaller schools simply can't sustain. So the academic case, 1 building, better outcomes. And we'll go down the right side and we'll talk on the right side first, but vertically aligned curriculum. Every grade, pre-K through 5 in 1 building makes seamless curriculum design possible. We have all of our resources under 1 roof. Resource teachers by grade. So we've heard that here in Mr. Rutherford's presentation this evening. I'll tell you guys, my biggest challenge this school year has been utilizing resources efficiently across 2 elementary buildings. And Mrs. Weiber's here tonight, and she can speak to this, but most commonly within our special ed department. Because at the end of the day, I have special ed students in both buildings. I have to get resources to both buildings. I could more efficiently serve that population of students if all those students were under 1 building, okay? We talk about targeting, as Mr. Rutherford talked about targeting 6th, 7th, and 8th. In the elementaries, we talk about targeting pre-K, K, 1. Again, if we get them off on solid foot, we close gaps earlier, we have better chance for success, 2nd, 3rd, and it builds, okay? So if we have the resources, we have an opportunity to place an aide in every kindergarten classroom. So when we talk about pushing in to our core classes, now all of a sudden, we would have an opportunity, we would have the resources to push an aide into every kindergarten classroom. So that's the big picture education impact. Saved resources allow us to invest in our people. Staff retention and satisfaction directly impact student achievement. And this goes right back to the previous slide where it talks about John Hattie's research and identifying that he's identified collective efficacy as having the highest positive impact on student achievement of any factor studied. So what's one of the ways you do that? You do it by investing in our people. I want to be able to recruit the best. I want competitive compensation to attract top talent to our district. I want to retain our team members. I want resources to keep experienced, dedicated educators in our classrooms. And as I explained to our staff, even beyond that, it's bus drivers, it's cafeteria workers. And you know, when that cafeteria worker stays in our school system long enough and learns kids by name, it changes a kid's day when they come through and they're served a lunch and they're greeted by name by one of our school lunch department employees.
My kids have a favorite cafeteria worker. Like they know her by name. They see her out in town. She's like, that's the one. She's the one. She's
Absolutely.
It's important.
It is. It is. It's retaining bus drivers. So as the kid gets on that bus to start each day, they're greeted by a consistent face. So, and again, that's just to support every role from teachers to aides to custodians to bus drivers to office personnel to food services and beyond. Everyone deserves our investment. And it's creating that standard of excellence. And we all have a part in this regardless of our role on this team. Our people are our backbone. And I don't know about you guys, but when I walk in this place every day, I want to walk in this place with the best people that we can put in every one of those spots. And everybody in this room knows one of the ways that you do that is you remain competitive from a pay standpoint and you remain competitive from a benefit standpoint. Okay? Now I'm going to get personal a little bit. Okay? And a personal commitment sitting in my seat. And right, wrong, indifferent, some may agree, some may not agree. You can call me selfish, but I want the best for all of our students because 3 of them are my own. And this is about kids. So when I issue this tonight and I present this tonight, this comes from the same place every parent understands. Wanting the very best education, resources, and opportunities for every child who walks through our doors. Consolidation, in my opinion, sitting in this seat, knowing what we're faced with, the pressures that we have, is how we protect that promise financially, academically, and for the long term. So the key takeaways that I have from this tonight that I just want us to walk away with is it's 2 separate conversations. There's a conversation, the facility study that's allowing us to plan for future facility needs in our school district. And there's the conversation of consolidating 2 elementaries down to 1. Okay? Both demand our attention, but it's 2 separate conversations. The statewide pressures are real. And I will even expand a little bit on the declining ADM. Not only do we have declining ADM, but you guys, today, this year, we received less money per kid from the state of Indiana than we did last year. Okay? So they can highlight that there was an increase in education funding, that's fine. But what they fail to mention is that they took away our textbook curricular material reimbursement, where we received so much money per kid, on top of what we received in ADM support, okay? So not only is it a declining ADM, but again, we're receiving less money per kid today than we did a year ago. We are fiscally strong for now. Proactive action keeps us that way. Inaction erodes our position. Consolidation creates new opportunity. Smaller classes, better programs, stronger staff, and more resources to the classroom. Again, I want everybody to understand this has been sitting as acting superintendent presenting this information to you guys tonight. And so that's just where I'm led as I have conversations with our people, with our teachers, with other staff. That has fed into what I've presented to you guys here this evening. All right, let's get to some good stuff. Last night, several of us were able to attend the Superintendent's Association Regional Spring Meeting. And I'll tell you guys, sitting in my seat, it's neat to sit in a room where our board members are recognized, where our school board is recognized. And I want our community to understand that there's a different level of engagement and investment by the 7 of you than what there are in most school districts, in full transparency. Okay, and I'll get to some of that data here in just a minute. But last night we sat there and we had several after well, I don't remember if it was before all the wall dates, I think, wasn't it? But we had several board members recognized. So the Indiana School Board Association gives out exemplary governance awards. The purpose of this awards program is to encourage school boards and school board members to engage in continuous learning in their role as school governance leaders for public education. Okay, it basically goes on a point system. Individual award levels are based on points accumulated through attendance at ISBA seminars, workshops, conferences, and other learning events. There are 4 levels. There is commendable, there is advanced, there is distinguished, and there is exemplary. Mrs. Longacre and Mrs. Martin last night received level 1 commendable awards. Mr.
Where
White.
did you spend all that money?
We both
Gave it all right back to the school.
Mr. Wybrook received level 3 distinguished. Dr. Sneed received level 4 exemplary. Mrs. Keelich and Mr. Stanley were, I don't even remember which one of the honor roll it was.
Exemplary.
Step 3, distinguished honor roll. Okay? But you guys, the thing that was even neater for me last night is they also give out a board award. And again, same kind of point system, and you can receive points. So last night, our board received the level 3 distinguished award. Okay, and I have brought that here this evening. And I'm going to bring the piece to it that makes this neat for me. But they received this plaque last night that we hope to add more tags to. But in the state of Indiana, there were 2 level 3 distinguished school districts, us being one of them. The next level up, level 4, which I'm gonna push, okay? The exemplary level, only 5 districts in the state of Indiana received. So when you think about that, you guys are sitting here as one of 7 school districts across the state of Indiana. And what you guys have done through your engagement, your investment, your time, because each of those takes time out of your personal lives to do. I know this was a venture that was important to Mrs. Keelich, and her leadership, honestly, is what's led to this. And so I can't thank her enough as we continue this pursuit. But again, I just hope that our community understands the level that you guys are invested at. Because there's only 7 other districts across the state of Indiana that are at that or above that level. So thank you guys as I sit in my seat today. I'm appreciative of that. That's something that I don't take for granted. I'm extremely grateful for that. And I think that it contributes to what this room's like each night that we come in here. So thank you.
I need to change the meetings so we're here in the sun.
Spring and fall are hard on the farmer. We understand. We understand.
I always think with John, he's like got the worst.
Some other ones. I've started to gather some quotes on what it would cost to replace elementary classroom furniture. And when I say that, that's teacher furniture and student furniture. Okay. I don't know about my time as assistant principal and principal, but I know in my 5 years as CFO, I bought 0 furniture for elementary classrooms. Okay. And quite frankly, out here too, but Mr. Rutherford, we'll deal with that conversation another day.
Yeah, we expect it next time.
But just letting you guys know, I have started to receive those quotes. I don't want you guys to be sticker shocked. Okay. What I've asked is 20 sets of teacher desks, teacher chairs, and 24 student desks and student chairs per classroom. I can tell you right now that I won't be shocked if we're anywhere between 160 and 200,000. Okay, it's just the reality of it.
I did too.
Finalizing facility study. So I shared, let me get that. Ms. Tara and Lancer Architects had responded to me on April 9th and said, "My apologize for leaving you hanging. We plan to have our renovation recommendations, cost estimates together by the 24th for Summitville." And again, this ties back to our long-term facility study. That would be preliminary in awaiting the structural remediation cost. She is going to sign the agreement with LHB so that they can get their visit on site. She thinks that will take, including their site visit and subsequent report, will take at least 3 weeks to put together. Then they will have to do a little research to gather the cost estimates for whatever remedial work they suggest. because that's not in the proposal of LHB. So that is an update to our long-term facility study. Mr. Rutherford, you may have to correct me here, and I know you don't even want me saying anything, but I am appreciative of our teachers, our staff members, our principals that engage in things outside of our district that represent Madison-Grant well and give us a positive name. So Mr. Rutherford has served as Vice President of District 6 within the Indiana Association of School Principals Association for how long?
This is the second year.
Second year. He was just informed today
Yes.
that he will be transitioning. Did I get executive board correct, or is it
The board of directors.
board of directors? So he will be transitioning to one of 3 seats on the board of directors. They have an elementary, a middle school, and a high school. And you will be sitting in the high school seat
Yes, at the state level.
at the
Not
state
just
level.
at the district level, but at the state level.
So transitioning out of that VP in District 6 to serving on that executive board at the state level. Again, that takes extra time, extra commitment on his part, but I just wanted to highlight that tonight because I am extremely grateful for those staff members that choose to go present at conferences, that choose to engage in our professional networks and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One final thing for me. Let's jump into March 2026 cash flow. And we will start, actually, you know what? Throw it up here. We will start in the education fund. We started the month of March in our education fund with just shy of $4 million, $3,995,780.30. We receipted in $1,521,673.97 and spent $1,677,487.71, leaving us with a fund balance of $3,839,966.56. The swings and expenditures, we paid our Grant County Special Ed Co-op bill. We had some 5-star transactions, and we also paid our Ivy Tech bill. So that's why the education fund is a little higher this month. And also, we paid an additional $150,000 to Excel because the month of February is where we received that retro for SPED that flowed through to them in the month of March. So that's why those expenditures were a little high this month.
There was some confusion about like the Ivy Tech bills, like how that was being, they weren't billing us and.
So this gives us an opportunity to highlight a great partner that we have in Ivy Tech. And yes, there was a period of time where invoicing from Ivy Tech to Madison-Grant United School Corporation got behind. Okay, so since those bills got behind and we weren't receiving those bills, we couldn't pay those bills.
Right.
In return, some of our students, some of our graduates had holds placed on their accounts because they had an outstanding bill that we hadn't billed for that we couldn't clear up. Okay, ongoing thing that started in the 24-25 school year, in the tune of about $32,000. In order to make that right, and for our partners at Ivy Tech Marion to own that, they wiped that bill out. Okay, so when you think about that investment on their part, which we are appreciative of, and as I told them when I met with them, you know, I am more than willing to pay that bill. We've received those classes, our students received those classes. I just couldn't pay it because we never received the bill. And they own that, some turnover caused that and so forth. But Dr. Husky and his team wiped that bill clean. And so this is our bill for fall of 25.
So so we are.
Correct. We are up to date on our billing for Ivy Tech.
Good. What a win.
Yes, awesome.
What a good for Ivy Tech to
Yes,
step up.
absolutely. So
And it'll be good not to get phone calls.
and we were feeling them too, and I understand our students were frustrated because they're trying to register for classes and there's a hold on their account, but I can't pay a bill that I don't have a bill for.
Right, and
And
that's
so
what
it's just-
I ended up saying, so. It's
Yeah, and so we worked through that initially with Ivy Tech to remove those holds so students could get enrolled, but then from one semester to the next, those holds resurfaced again.
Yeah.
creating some challenges for our graduates.
And that's the first time I've heard you speak about it, so I was like, oh, maybe we're
Yep, that just happened in the last 3 weeks,
awesome.
so.
That's huge.
All right, debt service. I like this in the rainy day fund most months, but no activity. So we started and ended the month with a fund balance of $514,220.31 in our debt service fund. In our operations fund, we started the month of March with $2,640,587.18. We received $35,753.05 in revenue, and we spent $388,154.73, leaving us with a fund balance of $2,288,185.50. You can see there, 600 accounts were up a little bit. We did some final work on a warning track, and some utility bills were the result of that. And 300 was up a little bit as lawn service treatment was paid for, and gold repairs. So that is the result there. Again, you guys, we're 25% of the way in. You guys know how I build a budget, where I overstate expenditures and understate revenue. And we hope that as we progress throughout cash flow over the course of the budget year, that we get closer to that living within our means by the end of the budget year. So rainy day, no activity in it, so we still have $1,746.36. Our ADM, our in-person ADM comes in a tick up at 901 compared to, I'll say, 895. And our virtual partner ADM was up from February to March by approximately 34 students. Are there any other questions in regards to March cash flow? Hearing none, we will get on with the evening, and we will turn to public expressions. So the public is always invited to speak before the board. Please stand when recognized by the president and state your first and last name. Comments should be addressed to the board and be limited to corporation issues only. No complaints or accusations regarding personnel can be allowed during this public discussion time. A time limit of 3 minutes will be given. If more than one person is represented for a group, only one spokesperson will be heard. Hearing none, Madam President, we will continue. Maybe. School board expressions.
The presentation on next year from the outside looking in, that's very exciting. That's very exciting, the amount of work and the thought that was put into that. Can't say that I'm necessarily excited for August. Maybe July I might possibly be. But that's exciting.
I mean, we're excited. It's just moving sixth grade here. We thought we had like good reasoning behind why it was going to work, and then when we get this, now we know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we know that it was a good thing, because I think it's going to make a big difference at the middle school level for all three of those grade levels.
That conversation started, I'm gonna guess, probably 12, maybe even 14 years ago. Let's get the sixth grade out here and, to see it finally happen and see what, the true benefits of it. Kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
Your team really did look at what's best for the kids and for the teachers. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think it's really neat to see how many of our graduates or alumni are coming back to volunteer. As we're looking at that personnel list,
Yeah.
I mean, those volunteer students, I mean, those are our kids that have graduated within the last 5 years, and they're still invested in our community. It's neat to see that they're invested in our school system, invested in our community, and hopefully we're retaining some of those young people to have families and stay here.
Well, I think the Alumni Association is only gonna help that.
Yes,
I don't know
I
that
agree.
we're responsible for any of it yet, but I'm hoping we will add to it.
Yes,
Absolutely,
good. I think
absolutely.
this is really exciting.
Mrs. DeWitt, Mrs. Hanson, my apologies. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes.
Do you want a minute?
What I can say is things are going well. I think this is I am super excited for what this year is bringing. We're in the middle of state testing, like all the schools. We started yesterday, so 32 cities to go to get through all of our state testing. But we're optimistic, I think, from an academic standpoint, where some of the work that we put in years before, the prior years and everything we've done this year, when we see the work on the checkpoints and we see we're now at state average almost across the board in every grade level in the checkpoint, which we've never been anywhere close to state average, we're optimistic and hopeful. We're shooting for about another 150 to 200 kids next year. So right now we are budgeting and planning for about 1,300 students across VPrep and Beacon. We're super excited. We've already opened enrollment. We've got over 500 students that have already clicked the button, done all re-enrollment, and they're ready to go for next year. So that's huge for us at this point to know that our parents are excited to come back. We're super excited. We have 100% staff retention for next year. We've already, pushed that information out. So we're a staff now of about 87 people between teachers, counselors, success coaches, admin, all of our related service providers, you name it, we're about 87, and all 87 committed to return next year. So really proud of that. I think it speaks to the culture and it speaks to the team we built and the work that's going on behind the scenes for our kids. So really grateful and humbled by the opportunity you guys still give us to be able to do what we do. We're excited for graduation in May. We'll have over 150 graduates this year, so exciting. I met with one today. I had a student who lives in Bloomington, and he needed a permission slip signed to go to prom with his girlfriend who lives down there. So I drove to Bloomington this morning and spent some time in a coffee shop just talking to one of our seniors who's looking forward to graduation. So it's those little things to make you realize that, man, these are some awesome kids facing a lot and overcoming a lot. We can't wait to see them walk here in just a few weeks. So grateful for what you guys have done for us, and proud of what we're able to do for the kids across the state.
And how many counties are you guys touching in Indiana?
Last time I checked, we were at 89. We've been as high as 90. Some of those small rural counties are tough. But I know, right? Yeah. And then I feel bad for trying to but we have become a solution for a lot of families. And I've always said, I'm not going to go out and try to, our goal is not to go and take kids from other districts and to try to, our job is to be here when a district needs us and when a student needs us. And that's the role that we're filling. We have kids that have been with us all 5 years. We have kids that are with us for 2 or 3 months. Then they go back to where home is. And, we know that we just have to do the best we can every time we have them. And so we're really excited about that. Just keep getting better and growing, and hope the state test scores show that in just a few weeks.
This is your largest graduating class, 150?
We continue to grow, yeah. So we continue to grow a few each year. Yeah, our high school is over 500 students right now. Just the VPrep high school, not JV. So our high school, Jackie's got the bulk of our kids, and she's running it well, as I'm sure no one's surprised by. So we're really proud. We're expanding offerings, expanding programming next year, and hopefully that'll continue to attract kids that need us.
For those in the audience that don't know Mrs. Hanson is the head of school of our online school.
Her former principal.
Yep.
So we're quite familiar.
Yes. Grateful to still be connected with Madison-Grant. So we're very humbled by that.
And that connection continues to grow as she's head of school, and then Mrs. Samuels, the former building level principal at Summitville, is the principal of the high school and Beacon Online Academy. So
I always look forward to their graduation. They travel a ways to get to see their students cross that stage. It's impressive.
We have a lot of guests, I think, that are going to be at this year's graduation. Some of the national team members have kind of been watching the growth and watching, just kind of that progression of graduates. And so I think there's going to be several that want to come out to see that as well. It's one of those moments where it's almost, you're just speechless, because school didn't come easy, or life isn't easy for a lot of our kids. And so it's a very humbling experience to watch some of these kids across the stage, because most of the time, the work it took to get there isn't always the same as, they don't have the same life experiences sometimes. Some of them do, so it's not, I don't want to generalize, but I was really, really proud of the work.
Anybody else?
Just one thing, just to make you aware of, we are currently working with Ivy Tech and the area high schools that Ivy Tech serves in Marion to try to come up with a dual credit cooperative. You know, as some of you may know, the rules have changed with teacher credentialing and being able to teach dual credit classes. And that's a challenge for us, and it's a challenge for the other districts as well. In that, you know, we're losing the ability to provisionally credential them anymore. And so we need to get a little bit more creative in how we can continue to offer dual credit classes across this region, working together. So right now it's a Google form with about 15 dates on it that all these principals are supposed to be, which ones am I available for? We're trying to find a good time to get us all together with Ivy Tech to talk about how we can maybe get something started to help each other out.
Which will naturally lead to some of the conversations that we've had about us starting to cross over and share certain pieces and some of that, because Mrs. Samuels, the principal of our Virtual Prep Academy, will also be invited to that meeting too. So as they have staff that are currently, that meet requirements or that are on their way to meeting requirements to teach dual credit courses. So really a collective effort of the county schools in addition with our virtual department.
I had one small thing, community-wise. I ran into the branch yesterday and they are partnering with the drama club to offer drinks that are related to their school play.
Yeah.
It's really cool. They had some, gosh, what is the play? Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're all themed. So,
Tomorrow.
it's real, I like the partnership, and a little advertising for us, and so that's a really cool
Yeah.
connection that I thought was really, and I was up there yesterday at 4 with the chai latte that wasn't on the menu with that, but it's enough caffeine that I'm still buzzing through for it, so, if you got a chance, it's, they did something nice for us, just thought I'd mention it.
It is posted, I saw it this evening, about 4 o'clock today.
Yeah.
Posted right next to the cash register.
Yeah, it's very,
It is, it's neat, and just that partnership with one of our community partners, it's.
create a little buzz.
So thank you for mentioning that. That then leads to the play is Friday night and
Friday night, 7, Saturday night at 7, and Sunday afternoon at 1.
so for any of you that may be interested in attending the Sherlock Holmes play put on by our drama club, that is this weekend. Which brings us to upcoming events, because I think on Friday night, we also host the Madison County Track Meet out here.
Oh, my goodness.
So it'll be busy.
All your lanes.
I only have the big upcoming
Yes.
events. I don't have the small detail. But April 28th, back in this room, 7 p.m. board meeting, May 12th, May 26th, the same. And believe it or not, May 27th being our last student day. So it's hard to believe.
As a parent, it's not so hard to believe.
It's time.
Right.
It's time.
Did you need those dates again, Mr. Weber?
Nothing further, need German?
I make a motion.
First one, Mrs. Longacre, second by Mr. Stanley, all those in favor? Motion passes, meeting adjourned. All right. So motion passes.